I've given some leeway to all of you to define your characters a little bit more. And the first thing I want to say is, or ask, first thing to ask, any bug. So do you have a name for any bug?
Yeah, Anybug goes by Mo, but his real name is, his full name is Manfred Owen Barfield IV.
Oh, yes, I see. Aha. Then we can learn more about some of those other details as we go along when I talk about our upcoming moments of play. Jim, what is the witch's real name?
Isabella Garcia.
Aha, okay. Excellent. And then we have Grimfire, and all you really need to know is that he's an aging, retired superhero who is reappearing now for purposes of a public statement. I had mentioned Pavel. I mean, Pavel came in he signed up a little later and is kind of playing catch up, so that's okay.
So I envision Grimfire as because I assume setting is like in the US. Yes.
We are going with Hartford, Connecticut because Jim is very, very familiar with it. That's one of the rules of the game, is that you play somewhere that one of the players really, really, really knows.
I think originally, that means I have to change my name. Yeah, I will be Yuri. What is some cool Russian last name?
Velikovna.
Belikov.
Belikov, yeah.
Yuri Belikov. Mm-hmm. So yeah, Grimfire came from the heart of Russia, where he was kind of using his. I think he has some fire abilities. Yes.
It's called Hellish Fury is the name of the, and it's implied to be kind of spooky in appearance.
Yeah, so he used to warm himself up with this when he was young, and then he went to stop some of the mafia guys or some of the other incorrect political elements, but he finally moved to the US. So yeah, his origins are Russian. Mm-hmm. And his real name is Yuri Belikov.
Got it. Okay, that sounds great. It also is kind of cool. It sort of plays in interestingly with his older, somewhat ambiguous reputation, his anti-hero reputation, too, in that context. So what we now have is the context for play. The context for play is that there is a important city and district decision, which is not just, it's very much an example to a number of related areas, not just the state of Connecticut, but a bunch of allied cities. One of the most important sister cities or allied cities to Hartford is called Springfield in Massachusetts. When the governance of those two cities agree, you're talking about a very important ripple effect throughout that entire portion of the United States. They are a big part of the power structure of the country, of the whole nation, a big block, and it's concentrated in those two cities. So Jim is nodding. Obviously, my homework's working out. It's not too surprising that one of the biggest issues as of this moment in our story concerns the recognition of sexual orientation, and there's a big move for the the best word is normalization. So it's simply sexual orientation. It's like what we called the 21st Amendment. There will be no discrimination, no hiring practices, no separate legal standards on the basis of partner preference. It's going to be there. Ordinarily, a decision like this might be taken up to the Supreme Court. In this case, given the recent events on the Supreme Court of the United States, this local power block is taking it into their own hands, is willing to implement it, and to defy the president and the Supreme Court if they, in other words, they're drawing a line. This is supposed to be a battleground with the new presidential administration. Even though the region, I believe, already recognizes gay marriage, if I'm not mistaken.
Connecticut was actually the first state in the United States to ratify gay marriage through the legislature, as opposed to as a result of a state Supreme Court.
Right. This is a good point. Yeah. It's a good point. These guys are not going to go up through the courts. They think the courts are tainted. The power structure here thinks the courts are tainted, especially as you go higher. So they're going to implement this as policy, the non-discriminatory, effectively an amendment, what would be an amendment, and they're going to implement it. Well, this is a big news, and what it's really coming down to is that there's a huge. Today is the day. Today is the day with the signing. Today is the day when the council of the district that includes Hartford is going to sign off on this. And the idea is they sign, and then a whole bunch of other places across the Northeast will also sign. So this is the day. And not only is this the day, but a great deal of public figures have arrived to indicate their support for this. One of them is superheroes, who are highly, as I have stated in the statements, are highly they consider themselves highly representative of points of view. They're very iconic, ideologically iconic, the way we're playing it right now. So, therefore, my take is that all of your characters are there at this large public gathering, which is kind of a pretty organized festival with speakers and performances and events. The council members will give speeches, and bands will play, and parades will parade, and all that sort of thing is going to happen in support of this. And so I am positing that your characters are there for that purpose, that Grimfire is actually going to reveal his identity as in support of this. That the other two heroes who already have public identities, you guys are young heroes, and I'm going to say that being public, who you are, no mask, no secret identity, that's a big thing for the young superheroes. That secret identity stuff, that's old, right?
My sheet actually lists me as having a secret ID.
Oh, but you're the witch. You're a little different.
Oh, yes, yeah.
And the witch is a little compromised in this regard. You have a twin sister who's in danger from a given villain. The villain is very complicated, and but people are expecting, or at least wondering, why the witch isn't.
Got it. Okay.
So you're very much an exception. So, but Anybug is extremely typical in this regard. Anybug, everyone knows he's who he is, and that's how it is, with all that may entail. So we have, I think, unless anybody is going to object in a very serious way, I'm having your characters be at that rally as public supporters of this event. That's what we're up to. Okay. Jim, can you tell us a little bit about the venue?
Let's see if this is gonna happen in Hartford. It's probably gonna happen at the old State House, which is a colonial era building, kind of, I think, where the Connecticut legislature has met for a long time, or traditionally met. I mean, it's not where they meet anymore. There's a great big Capitol building now, but the old State House has there's a big green out in front of it, and this is kind of like the when you stage an event where you're trying to say, kind of, this is weird.
We stand for this.
Exactly, Connecticut values, and we're going to have a big crowd, and we want it to, and explicitly you want it to be outdoors. That's a thing that's a place where you would have it.
We'll do that. Now, I will also say that since this is late October and we're talking about the northeastern United States, it's not that warm.
Yeah.
The way that people are doing this is, it's not a big summer fest with everybody in shorts. And in fact, if it's legal, we'll even have I don't know if fire pits is the right word, but some kind of, fiery warming spots that people can gather around.
And because this is New England, there would you would have the ceremony at the State House, and then probably march to Bushnell Park.
Perfect.
And then there's the big thing in Bushnell Park, and Bushnell Park's big thing is that they have a classic carousel there that's been there for 100 years. And so it seems like you have the ceremony at the old State House, kind of sort of in replication of the signing of the original Connecticut Constitution or something like that, and then you march through Hartford to Bushnell Park, which is only
the plan.
A couple of miles.
Perfect. So, perfect. Now at the old State House in the big open area, different activist or protest groups. It's been carefully organized that counter demonstrations can occur. But it's also been carefully organized among various activist groups not to overreact to them. But that doesn't stop some of the more radical activist groups from making it clear to everybody that they consider, there's one very definite group that says they don't want to be involved because normalization is not what they've been fighting for all these years. And so,
but a group of superheroes or a group?
No, that's just. I'm talking about the good question. I'm just talking now about different. I'm trying to wrap my mind around the different kinds of statements that different groups would say. What's the political topic of conversation people are going to agree with or not agree with. But as you can imagine, it is pretty festive. There's a lot of people out for support. And the appearance of a young hero named Ruby Ray is greeted with great pleasure because Ruby Ray is a very famous underground DJ. And very, very radical and very known for refusing to go mainstream. So when Ruby Ray shows up for support, that's a big indicator to the radical groups. Come on, get with it. Get with it. Don't be too radical to win. So Ruby Ray transforms himself into living laser, bright red, streaking through the sky, zip 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 in straight lines, kind of person, and makes a brief statement, but can't stick around. And so that's one character. So would anybody else like to go up and make public statements or talk about how you arrive? How does your character actually arrive? Because making a big entrance here is part of the goal.
I think so. I'm just trying to wrap my head around. Has it already been signed, or are we?
No. This is about to happen. The signature will occur, and then there's going to be the big parade, the big march.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I suppose Grimfire found his old suit and his old mask, and he rented the limo. And he had the limo painted with some fiery elements. Probably there was a flamethrower shooting in the air to signify that there's some guy with fire arriving, and probably some heavy metal music.
Oh, right. Yes.
On the speakers. So maybe you will have a car behind the limo with the huge speakers playing some heavy metal band, and he probably they do a circle around the State House, and then maybe they park where everyone is
right. There's a staging ground for vehicles so that's fine. I'm going to suggest as well that this kind of pro wrestler entrance for Grimfire is very typical for his generation of superheroes, and the older people in the crowd love it. And so now it just as a detail, fame doesn't last forever. And it's sort of like, what if I'm trying to think of a very iconic but very 80s only superhero. What if one of Rob Liefeld's superheroes from Wildstorm, shows up and, say, "I'm here, everybody." Well, most comic fans would have no idea who that is.
Yeah.
The public wouldn't really. So Grimfire maybe is getting some dedicated support, but it's not like the crowd goes wild.
Yeah, definitely.
So, yeah. All right.
There's a lot of whispering in the crowd. Who is this guy?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, who cares?
Grimfire
is going to unmask, and Grimfire is going to unmask, and someone says, "So," So let's see. I did not get the witch's real name though. Can't be secret identity from us. So, oh, you did, Isabella. That's right. Yeah, you're doing it again, Jim, Mr. Silent.
Isabella Garcia.
That's right. I remember now. Yeah. So excellent. I strongly approve. And what she has a twin sister, and she has some other kind of family stuff going on. Do you want to tell me how the witch shows up, or also how things go before this event for the witch, for Isabella?
So is the presumption that I'm showing up in costume as the witch?
Well, the presumption was that you would show up for support of the event, but if you don't want to do that, or if you want to show up relatively anonymously to start, that's okay too.
I think I'm going to be there relatively anonymously to start. I am shown up in my capacity as a healthcare worker.
Ah, okay, right.
And
you have to have medical teams available on call, right?
And there's a group that called the Hartford Gay and Lesbian Health Collective.
Ah, excellent. Mm-hmm.
That has been instrumental through many years in as being a force that has that provides services to that community when they and especially going back to like AIDS era,
right.
Difficulty getting health services and stuff like this. So I think I'm I think I'm an like a I don't know that I'm an RN necessarily, but I'm like a like a physician's assistant or something like that.
That sounds perfectly good. And I also would like to say that your twin sister, because you're identical.
Oh,
twins.
You know what? No, I think I'm going to be an EMT.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Your twin sister, on the other hand, who is a young business professional, is had an argument. She has come to this event in support. It's been a tough morning because your parents don't want you guys to have anything to do with this. Your parents are a little bit reserved on this as a social issue. Very much in the order of, well, I guess it's okay for them, but why do they have to be so loud and cranky and demanding about it? And if you or your sister have an orientation that your parents wouldn't approve of, then you may actually keep it quiet.
I think I'm gay. She's not.
Right. Okay.
Which is a thing which is one of those twin things I find fascinating.
Sure. No, I agree. There's research and stuff. Yeah.
I'm gay. She's not. And I think we're in that space where, I'm in my whatever at this point, like mid-20s or something like that, and I don't really have boyfriends, but I would never think of bringing one of my girlfriends home,
right?
And so everybody's kind of like I think we're at that kind of thing where like everybody's just sort of dancing around it, but not really talking about it.
And so perhaps characteristically, it's your sister who mixes it up with your parents, not you, about whether she's going to go.
Yeah.
But she's out there in the crowd. She's got a sign. She's with friends. And so, yeah, come up with your sister's name in just a moment. In the meantime, we're just to add to the interesting festivities, I think that a lot of fairly burly men in close-fitting leather or faux leather outfits really show up for Grimfire. Perhaps to Grimfire's slight surprise that the bears love them. Mm-hmm. So who knew? And so then we have Anybug. Oh wait, so you're working there. Grimfire's made a big impression, made a big entrance. We'll do a roll for that in a moment. And what's Anybug going to do?
I think Anybug has when Anybug is going around the city as Anybug, Anybug has a Ford Transit van, heavily customized though. Ooh. With red and black kind of striping, and Anybug is going to be in Anybug's outfit, which is kind of based on like a red and black assassin bug.
Right.
And so he has this kind of black and red.
And remember, when you manifest your bugness, your powers, it's kind of like a transparent image, manifests around him, like especially his head. So that's cool. Yeah, I like it.
Okay. But
the Bugmobile.
Digging into, you gave me a little bit of the background. I'm thinking that Anybug, okay, he's in this van. Anybug's grandfather, for some reason, really, really wanted to go to this event. And this was unusual because Anybug's grandfather, who has this kind of mysterious past, and he's not really well liked by members of the family.
He's difficult. He's kind of difficult to deal with. He's disoriented and a little bit and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, but for some reason, his grandfather really, really needed to go to this event.
I wouldn't be surprised if maybe there's something that people can get behind with this. That maybe, he surprisingly and rather rationally speaks up about, all the people that he knew in the 80s who died. Mm-hmm. And he actually seems to have had, friends back then, and he just sort of speaks up out of the blue to the surprise of everybody that he wants to go. And this is something that he approves of, and everybody's kind of like, dude, okay.
And I imagine then Anybug actually, when he pulls up in his customized transit van, his grandfather is actually in the back with a healthcare worker to kind of he's in a wheelchair, but he opens it up and everybody thinks, oh, there's going to be all this gadgetry and stuff, but there's his grandfather who's kind of wheeled out to join the ceremony.
Could I have a wonderful bit of can I indulge myself by asking if Anybug's vehicle is customized such that the top slides open and he can actually jump out?
Yes. Yeah, and he has a great jumping ability. Right. So he does kind of make this big entrance, and it connects with the crowd. But then he also thinks, oh, my grandfather's here. And this is one of the reasons why I'm here as well, is because my grandfather really wanted to go.
Excellent. Yeah. I mean, maybe if you wanted to make a statement to that effect, could be strong.
Okay.
Let's go back to Grimfire, though, who's kind of playing up to the crowd. Is there something that you want to actually say?
You mean like walk to the microphone and
and exactly. Mm-hmm.
What is your idea of pacing? Is this the proper moment to let us go and must give my identity, or not yet? Is it like a moment for like a smaller speech? Like, how do you envision this?
I am actually going to let that be up to you. I'm going to learn about Grimfire at this moment.
Okay. So yeah. I think maybe we see the announcer next to the microphone standing there with like a yes, and now, ladies and gentlemen, we see Grimfire in his like limo arriving, and that's the moment when he like arrive there, and he's like walking through the crowd, and the crowd is like a little bit confused. Who is he? What he's doing here?
Mm-hmm.
He walks in like a straight line toward the place where the speaker is, where the microphone is, and I think he will. He's going to start his speech about that the superheroes used to be living in the shadows and only helping the common folk when the law wasn't looking, because it was dangerous to be a superhero back in the 80s and the 70s and even the 90s. But he reminds everyone that now that the superheroes are official and that they are in official capacity to help everyone, how it boosted, how it allowed all those young superheroes to go on the streets, and that even when I see that my old approach to this thing, and maybe the camera shows how he looks, because I never described how he looks. He has like a black leather uniform, and on all the limbs he has like a stream of fire going, so that it is very visible that he is like a black, and the fire is almost like moving. It's partially his ability, partially someone made him a fancy costume like a year ago for an occasion, and it looks like the fire is like animated, not only painted. And facially he has like this, like all his hair are like standing right up, and he's like it's clean cut, but like military clean cut. I think he has like this really green hair by now. He's like retired. Right. And then he continues that even though my generation of superheroes didn't used to disclose their true name, today you all should know who I was and who I am, because I saved many of you, many cities in the past. And he like takes off his mask, which used to be like a dragon's jaw, slightly extended, so that he can like breathe fire, and he like removes it, and he says that today I want the, I'm looking for the state name, I want the Kentucky to know that green fire,
but yes,
Connecticut,
yes,
that the green fire is actually Yuri Belikov.
Everybody, right. Now here's where we find out how this goes over. And it's time for a little lesson about champions. For certain things, presence, you have a number for presence. For every 5 points of presence, you get one of these.
Okay.
So you also get some modifiers based on what you said, and you gave a pretty good monologue, which is going to be plus 2 dice 6, and you're in a very appropriate place for this, so that's going to be another 2 dice 6 for this. I think you have a presence of 15, is that correct? 18, so that's 4. The rounding helps you. So 4 dice plus 4 more dice. That's 8 dice you get to roll and have the pleasure of counting up all the numbers. I know. Yeah, it's a skill.
So you want to stick to the physical dice, or you want to use some roller?
Either one that you prefer.
I'd rather do the rolling. It will save us some time. I'd rather do the electronic dice.
Okay, that's fine.
Save us some time.
Mm-hmm.
There's a roll for your party room that I put a link to in the chat.
Oh, okay. But he might have one of his own. We'll see.
Yeah, sure. If you want to use that so that we're rolling in the same room, it's there.
Yeah, I'm going to use this one.
Mm-hmm.
Green fire. I'm going to take the red dice.
Mm-hmm. So roll 8 dice 6 and tell us the total.
29.
29, excellent. Now, the way this works is that I have a number in my head, and we're thinking about it in terms of multiples, and I'll round that to 30. It's close enough to 30, which is, for ordinary people, that's enough to really get them excited. A lot of people don't know who you are, but they want to know. And the significance of the unmasking, actually, you were able to convince them. So everybody is really, really interested in this. It's a big success. Even some people who came as protesters find themselves impressed and maybe a little scared that someone like you would be on this side, be here for the event. You have unusual looks as well. I think it's 11 or less. Is that correct? In your
yeah.
Okay, 11. So if you roll now for the other kind of resolution in Champions. So you see, you're our case study for how we play, how we use the dice. The other big thing in Champions is rolling 3 dice 6, and you're trying to get a certain number or less. For unusual looks, it's 11 or less. For you. But the big problem here is that this is a disadvantage, so this is something that might not be so good for you. So therefore, roll 3 dice 6 and tell me what you get.
17.
Okay. You do not scare all the babies. Right?
So maybe let me give it some fiction. So as he unmasks, we see that his face has severe signs of burning because he's fiery sometimes.
Right. Makes sense. He's got some burn scars. Right. Sure.
His face over here has severe signs of burning, and the skin is melted together, and it isn't a very nice look.
So excellent. That makes a lot of sense, and it also lets us know. But the point is that since you did not roll 11 or less, it has no negative impact on the situation. People are actually more sympathetic to it rather than a little scared or horrified. So with that in mind, you guys have learned the basics of Champions. You're either rolling a big handful of dice based on 5 points per die, or you are rolling 3 dice 6 and trying to get some number or less. Almost all the rolling looks like that. So let's take a look then at Anybug, who has also made an entrance and also may have something to say to the crowd or may not.
Yeah, so Anybug, I think his grandfather is really wanting to get up to the stage. And so Anybug is going to wheel his grandfather up to the stage with him.
Oh man, this is like bringing a puppy to a public statement, right? Everybody you've won the crowd already. Look, he brought his grandpa. It's
yeah, but Anybug is going to make a brief speech saying that this is a issue which unites the generations. That many people think that it's only the younger generation that has been pushing for these progressive advancements, but these issues go deeper than age. Mm-hmm. And my grandfather is here with me, and we're standing side by side to show our unified support.
Now, he's not so infirm that he needs the wheelchair all the time. So at this point, he's actually standing up, before you say that, so that the imagery is just right for this.
Yeah.
And so that's great, actually. Geez, you're clearly in the right place. You've demonstrated a power by your jump. So you're going to get plus 5 dice 6. And I believe you only have a presence of 10 because You're just a beginning dude. You're just a beginning superhero. And so your presence is just ordinary as someone else. But that's plus 5 dice. So that's 7 total. Right? You had a 10, so that's 2 dice 6 right there. And then you have these plus 5. There's lots of ways to get minus dice on presence, but they're not happening at the moment.
Okay, so I'll roll the 7 die. See.
And then the trick for Champions is find all the 10s.
Okay. I got 24.
There you go. Okay. Well, you don't have quite the impact that Grimfire had, and it has a great deal to do with stage technique and presence. You don't really have the chops for public speaking. Grimfire has been able to, in the past, has been able to make a whole mob of rioters stand down, in the middle of a flaming neighborhood or stuff like that. So he's got the background to do that kind of thing. And so, regardless, though, it was great, great optics, and you get the round of applause, and you get somebody from one of the protest groups in one of those weird random lulls of silence in a situation like this, shouts out something incredibly awful, along the lines of, maybe if he wasn't queer, he'd be able to talk for himself. The implication being that he's addled and, wasted by disease because he's obviously, a pervert. So that's kind of the quality of the rhetoric. And for those of us who've been in this game for a long time, and I don't mean champions, we know that the anti-gay rhetoric of the 80s and 90s was pretty high quality propaganda. The sort of alt-right version of it, it's pretty lame. I mean, it's blatantly stupid. And then how that proves to be kind of hard in combating that kind of thing. It actually was easier to debate the issues when the other side was trying to be pseudo-intellectual about it. Whereas here, so what I'm trying to say is there's some vocal dicks in the crowd who are ready to even abuse an elderly man publicly with meaningless slurs. So you've kind of got this scattered going on out there a little bit. Notice that Grimfire didn't get any such response. They kept their mouths shut when he was done talking. So and the difference in the roles is what's guiding me in this. All right then. What we've got then is your grandfather is, or Anybug's grandfather is standing and is about to speak, and right at that moment emits a chilling, rattling, almost a screech or a yowl. His head kicks back, and you're standing right there. Perhaps Anybug is standing right there, and perhaps to your horror, you actually see all of his teeth lengthen and sharpen and curve as he tips his head back and his jaw drops farther than a jaw should drop. And he takes one step back and then reverses direction, doubles over so that his head is down, and you can actually see his bodily mass in not smoothly either, but like kind of a way increasing. And so the only thing I want to say is, does I want the witch to make a perception roll. I want Isabella to make a perception roll.
Sure. Got my 3d6 here. Looking at an 11.
Excellent. And so that's sufficient for your perception roll. And what you hear is a man standing next to you, just before that happens, had murmured, Oh, now, old man, don't you feel a little hungry? And that's when this happens up on the stage. So as you can imagine, what's that? People are probably ready to launch into some kind of action at this point. And sorry, Jim, go ahead.
I mean, can I try and mess with my powers a little bit here?
We are about to move into the relatively stringent rules for action in Champions.
Fired up.
The thing that I want to emphasize is that although It's going to sound like it's locked down like a metronome. It's your turn to go. It's your order to go. Here's your turn. Here's your turn. Wait, it's not yet your turn. It's going to sound like that. But you're going to discover that your characters are actually able to wiggle those rules. Think of this as reaction time rather than physical speed. See if an attack is coming in on you, you are able to defend yourself. You're able to perhaps do some things. Don't let the rigidity of the purported system totally lock you down.
It's panels in a comic book instead of
right. Well, that's part of what I do.
Shots in a movie, so yeah.
True. Yeah. Well, there's also room. Even the original rules are actually more generous than one may think. And this is called segment 9. There's 9 segments. And just like rock and roll, instead of starting on 1, you start on the last beat of the next one. So it's just like that. And so instead of starting on segment 1, we start on segment 9 when everybody gets to go. So the first thing to do is and we will take it in order at the moment. I believe if the witch is going to do something with ego, then the witch will be coming in first.
So what I wanted to do was I've got that variable power pool.
Yeah.
So I wanted to maybe play a little bit with that. I'm still kind of in my civilian dress, but I heard this guy say this. So I was hoping I might be able to use my power pool to do some come up with some extra sensory, like some detection, to try and see if I can see anything coming off of this guy that indicates he's the source of the problem.
This is awareness and analyze. And so since it's just this one person, they're right there. You don't need any kind of regionality to it or anything like that. But you're also looking for things that are not ordinary senses.
Correct.
So this is actually going to push you up into sort of the 35-point realm. Make an ego roll right now to see if you can tweak your variable power pool into this power.
Cool. And and she hears that, and I think in the comics, there's that whatever. I know thought balloons are out of fashion now, but
I am all for the thought balloons. Yeah, I campaign for the return of the thought balloon.
of her saying, perhaps if I extend my senses into the mystical realm, I may be able to see if what it is that is happening to this poor man.
Exactly. Why am I remembered of DC was particularly a repeat offender of having the character tell you what they were about to do.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That was very common. But go on.
That's another 11, 2 3s and a 5.
Oh, perfect. And the 11 and actually that's an ego roll for you. So that's a nice success. So you needed a 13 or less, I believe. Great. And so, or a 14, I forget. But the point is that, yes, you do. Now, all powers are visible in Champions. So therefore, unless you say otherwise, pay for it. So therefore, the witch's special effects actually I'm going to say kind of like slices reality into these weird diagonal segments, and they all kind of slide in different, directions from each other.
Sure.
And it's this weird kind of 3-dimensional effects that, makes reality look really strange. But to the witch, this is what things are supposed to look like. And so now you can see past all of the illusions of the false way that people look at reality. And what you see, first of all, is that this man is actually not a single person at all. That there is a plethora of people involved. And 2 of them in particular are actually blended right here in this person. And that this is a manifestation of a collective will that has sort of a front man, and for that matter, as you analyze this, a front woman actually occupying exactly the same spot. And that's the nature of what you're looking at. You're not using any kind of telepathy, so you can't get any intention out of this. But But one last thing is that the force of that will is generating a reality which is actually resisting and shattering your understanding of it. So you're up, you're like, whoa, this is a big gun. This is, and the person who is going to, will not go next physically. The person actually manifests with just like holding up two fingers like Doctor Strange, right? Little glowy thing around there. And in an arc of light. Yeah. Well, I was thinking of this, right? An arc of light, not a peace sign, but just like two fingers extended. And so exactly. And so this arc of light leaps up high, forms a sphere, and a crackling of light goes down and actually goes straight into the struggling man on the stage. Okay. So it's almost as though a ball of light has been manifested up there, and it has like a string or a tendril or a hook into that person. So up there on the stage, you actually see this light come down and like lance into your grandfather's body, and it's almost literally like a hook, like a fish hook, like digging into him, but made of light. So the next person to go, in fact, I'm going to go ahead and make a little attack roll of my own, which is grossly successful. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 dice of effect. Here's a perfectly good opportunity to tell you another rule about champions, which may surprise you. All talking is free at any time. You as player never ever have to wait for your character's turn in order for your character to say something. They call it the free monologue, and it takes no time in game. So dialogue in Champions is very much words on the printed page, and if you've got space for it, you say what they need to say. If Reed Richards has to explain the transmogrifier in that panel, and who cares if he's dodging, scroll bolts while he's doing it, he can do it.
With the dialogue, any bug would be looking at the grandfather and saying, "Grandfather, are you feeling okay? Mm-hmm. What is happening to you?" Right.
That's absolutely makes sense. And so, let's take it to, anybody got a 13 on something they want to do? Physical dexterity, mental power, ego.
I have a 14 dexterity.
In that case, you're going right now.
Okay. I think, now with any bug's powers, they're technological. Do I have to turn on my power pack to make sure is this something that's normally on, or is this...
Turning on your power pack is a zero-phase action. You can only do it in your designated moments of action, but It doesn't take any time to do it. So just by starting your turn and saying it's on, you've done it.
Okay. Because I think what any bug would want to do would be to turn that on, and I think any bug would also, noticing the kind of strange transformations happening, any bug will do a kind of jump backward with a little flair to it. Right. It's just kind of like a backward flip in the air, but, is not going to attack his grandfather. Right. You maybe see a thought bubble saying, he looks like he's dangerous, but I can't attack him. Right. He's my grandfather.
Perfect. Yeah.
But then, but would phase his, put his technological power pack to the on position while he's doing this gymnastics leap backwards.
Absolutely.
I can see what's happening.
That's great. Since you're seeing what's happening, make a perception roll. That's your action. Movement and action, you got it. You just gave me a statement of activity. So perception roll is going to be for you the same as your intelligence.
Okay. And what it says for me, I have a perception says 13.
That's fine. Yeah.
Okay. And I want to roll 3 dice 6, and I want to go less than this, correct?
Well, 13 or less, yes.
Yeah, so I got a 7.
Excellent. Well, you orient very well. When Peter Parker looks around and gets a clue of everything, you can definitely see the guy in the crowd who at this moment is actually moving. He's starting to move as well physically. And you can see that the very visible globe of energy is up there. What you can see is that globe of energy hanging there in the air is actually kind of puppeteering your grandfather. This is some controlling mechanical is not the right word, some sort of controlling entity or effect on him. And also, your perception roll will also let you know that what your grandfather's turning into looks kind of familiar. You don't know much about it, but that's kind of familiar. Grimfire, I'm going to give you a perception roll right now, as part as well. So 3d6.
This was this 3d6, yes?
Yes.
It's a 5, so I think I rolled under. So.
Yes, no problem. And so what that means is you instantly, and to your horror, I think, recognize who that is up there on that stage. This is one of the most tragic villains or super characters of all history. They called him Devour because he would be overcome by hunger and transform into this predatory, bulky, terrifying, growing being who became super, super, super strong and destructive. And the person, most people didn't know this, the person was desperately attempting to find a cure for themselves, but was forced to try to, but since they were being, hunted like this fugitive, was forced to go into hiding. So he'd almost find the cure, but then his mind would be deteriorating. Mm-hmm. And so think of the Hulk without the Hulk's plot protection. You know how the Hulk never accidentally drops a car on a kid? Somehow?
Yeah.
When he bursts through a building, he doesn't slaughter 100 office workers. Well, Devour has no such protection. And not only that, but was literally driven to eat people, human flesh. So therefore, stopping Devour was very, very important and very tragic. But Devour was really, really good at disappearing. Somehow he'd manifest again as a normal person and disappear into the crowd. And for the longest time, he was this wretched, homeless wanderer across the world. And everybody thought Devour had died. After a while, Devour was gone, not seen again, never apprehended. The military wanted to use him as a weapon all the time, so therefore there were these epic battles of Devour, taking down platoons and military attacking vehicles and stuff. And it's very terrifying. Think of Venom crossed with the Hulk. Mm-hmm. So therefore, seeing Grimfire, who of course knows all this history quite well, is that's Devour. Shit.
Yeah, we see that dot
Oh yeah.
Devour. Exclamation question mark.
Right. Oh yeah, absolutely. The witch is already gone. Anybug's gone. Grimfire, what do you do?
Grimfire realizes that this thing might not be the best PR activity to happen on this day, so better to play it off as a not very PR nightmare, but we need a place to contain the situation where not so many people will die and get eaten by the devourer. So we see him looking around and thinking, where is the best? Because I said that I can. Your older hero concepts of premise perception and intelligence rolls concerning tactics. So I'm thinking about the best place where can I lure the devourer and maybe deal with him over there, where there will be as minimum environmental damage as possible.
And I'm going to suggest that in this circumstance that you're not even going to have to make a perception roll to do this. That
Okay.
you're fully oriented toward this whole situation in terms of public safety and in terms of movement and stuff like that. So if you want a suggestion, the most important thing to do is to get everybody away from there, to clear away from Devour. And so and also the fact that, if people are panicking, that's going to be a problem in a space like this. So
Okay.
however you want to handle that is up to you.
Yeah, it's it's not gonna be as. I'm not sure if I can connect two things into one action, but basically, I think we will see his hands start on fire, and we will start a circle of fire, expanding from the place where was the speaker, where the Enebak grandfather is turning into a devourer. The circle will be expanding so that the people cannot, so that only very panicked person will jump over.
Right.
And and telepathically he will be walking there and just saying run this direction, get away from here. There is a safety exit point, and slowly the ring of fire will be expanding, so that possibly no person will come too close. And
Right.
Maybe I
Right.
will leave handling the devourer for this second to someone else. Public safety
Right.
first.
Okay, now let's take a look at the powers on your sheet. You have a lot of leeway to play with them. Champions is very generous about wiggling what your powers can do. That's actually pretty important. It's not just what it says on the sheet. But as for what it does say on the sheet, you can manifest an aura around yourself of fire,
Mm-hmm.
of this hellish fury. What else does it say? It's underneath that elemental control.
I have Hellish Fury without any further description, and then the 3 dots: Force Field, Strike, and Missile Deflection.
Right. Force field and strike are which is an aura, is your own body. So it's not something you project somewhere else. With missile deflection, if missiles come in at you or somebody near you, you can extend that aura to make them veer off and not hit. So what you're talking about really doesn't have much mechanics effect, but visually you can be saying, visually that's legitimate. You can actually get that done.
Well, I'm totally okay with running almost to the where Devourer is turning, and then starting to expand this
Right.
ring of fire.
Yeah,
Because
perfectly sensible. Now, you're going to need to spend some endurance, and and the same thing for Anybug with your jump. You're going to expend, for Anybug, 4 endurance. For Grimfire, you are going to be expending 6 endurance. Now, these are not that big a deal right now, as you will discover. But as play proceeds, pretty soon your characters are going to get tired and might have to concern themselves about what to do on that basis. So that leads us to... and by the way, that awareness did not cost you endurance for the Witch. That's not an endurance costing power. So good. Now, finally, the person who acted actually walks up in the air as if there were a staircase and makes it about, overhead height. So they're not way up high, they're not way, way, way up there, but they are above the crowd. And so they're standing on the air, and there's this horrendous snapping sound. And what the person looks like is actually as if there were a man and a woman. You're only seeing half of each one, like this, bisected. They're not stuck together, fused together, but because they're actually their two realities keep not quite matching, right? So they're kind of phasing there together. However, what they look like, first of all, is there's a lot of a silhouette effect on their bodies. And inside that silhouette effect are like bursting points of light, developing and bursting points of light on and off throughout both of the halves of the body, as though they're happening inside some kind of void space defined by that silhouette. And the other effect is this nimbus of circular light that's always behind them. So it's like wherever you are looking at them, behind them is this circle with an indistinct edges, kind of expanding and dissipating off the edges, but this circle of white light behind them, and that further contributes to the silhouette effect. Their faces are, however, distinct. They are a man and a woman who, as far as you can tell, only seeing half of each, are in middle age and are white and very a look that I associate with career politicians. Very good hair, youthful for their age, and they have that same kind of, hey there, vote for me look that you see on American political posters. Both of them, although their faces are different features on either side, they both have that same kind of, and if you vote for me, this is something else you'll get kind of look on their face. So have I created kind of a picture of the domain?
Yep.
And so that's the domain's action, is to walk up there. The glowy light also is lancing out from that orb. Let's see whether and how this is going to go at the moment. Ruby Ray's not here, and this character is more oriented toward Ruby Ray. But so to your characters, it's a bit of a mystery why another person in the crowd, who strangely enough was positioned on a rooftop, is suddenly hit by that lancing light as well and yanked on, just like Devour was. So there's two targets for the globe that was set up by the domain.
Just a one simple question, because I'm not sure if Grimfire is aware of this thing kind of forcing Devourer's change. I'm not sure is it clearly visible? Is he aware that something is like controlling him? Or?
Yes, that is correct. You definitely see what is happening visually. Its direct effects in terms of control are not as evident to you as they are to the Witch, for example, because the Witch has done this whole, and you were trying to figure out what the domain was. Mm-hmm. The peripheral information about that is only that the domain is literally able to quote a certain political figure in the last couple of decades, we make our own reality. We're no longer a reality-based community. You reality-based thinkers are completely behind the curve. We're going to make our own reality, and the rest of you can just clean up after us and tell us what it is. Well, the domain is all about that. So the next thing I wanted to do is to give the domain a presence attack. They love to tell you what they're about and what they're here for and what to do. The presence attack is what your characters did earlier, where you rolled all those dice relative to your presence. And so coming in with a set of pretty dramatic actions and with a truly heinous roll, for a total of 42. The impact of the domain will speak in a somewhat disturbing doubled voice, where the two people are speaking and they may not use exactly the same words, and one phases in, one phases out. And so I can't duplicate it myself, but think of two word balloons that are like superimposed, and they're not quite saying exactly the same thing, but they mean the same thing. And the word balloons, or the what the domain is saying is that this is not going to happen. The vote will go the way it's supposed to go. And if anybody has a problem with that, I've given you something to keep you busy. So, excuse me, I'm going to go and vote. And so the witch is basically saying, no, I'm going to go and jack up the whole process and do it my way. It's going to go my way. It's going to stay my way. And by the way, here are some Berserk supervillains to have a little fun with while I go. And then the domain says, "Oh yes," and looks down and points to Isabella's sister, and says, "Come along," to her. Your sister. This is a humongous presence attack. You can make people do tons of things with a presence attack like this. She will rationalize that for the safety of everybody, she better go. So your sister actually will start walking in the same direction that the witch is going. For some reason, the domain is interested in your sister. Okay. That is the end of segment 9. The nice thing is that at the end of segment 9, there's something on your sheet called recovery. And recovery means you get back what you've spent. And you've already spent some endurance. Well, guess what? Your recoveries are big enough to clear the deck on that. You're full up now. You're not going to get... Enjoy it while you can. So we will go into segment 1, where nobody goes. We'll go into segment 2, where the domain goes. The domain actually has walked a little bit of ways from the crowd. Your sister has walked to him or them or her, whatever the domain is, and the domain basically says, "Step in where you belong. I know you're the witch," says the domain to your sister. We need that. So that is what the domain does. And actually has sort of taken, with the motion that the domain has available, actually taken your sister, kind of like Mephisto, kind of doing this around somebody. And your sister's terrified, but scared for everybody else. So that's what's happening. On 3, who's going to go? Oh, wait.
Anybug has a 3.
Yeah, by the way, I forgot about Killer Coil, who's coming in as well. The woman on the roof, sorry, back on 2, the woman on the rooftop does a jump and lands in the crowd, and from either hand comes a rippling tentacle. It's mechanical, coming out of a unit that she's got on her forearms that harnesses up onto her shoulders. And these tentacles come out. They're actually out from under. So you got her hands from here. You've also got these tentacles coming out, and they're a good 8 to 12 feet long. And they instantly batter. She flings her hands out, and the tentacles flap out. Circle out, clears a whole area behind her. And she will be coming and running in at Grimfire. She's not quite close enough to attack Grimfire yet, but she shouts something. Oh, something kind of interesting. She shouts, the domain doesn't need you in it, and is running straight at Grimfire. So you'll recognize this person as well. Her name is Killer Coil. She is a person who makes herself available for hire and is notable for cybernetically She's notable for cybernetically completely implanting her employer's morality into her mind. Completely canceling anything she might have. Just puts in a modular device that is exactly what her employer believes in. So she's the perfect mercenary. She guarantees maximal commitment to what you've hired her for. And is notable for her ruthlessness. Okay, good. That's what she does. Now, sorry, any bugs coming in, you've got a dexterity of 14. And if the witch wants to go on, 14 as well for ego, that's fine. Either one. But,
I don't think. Let me on my sheet. My ego is listed as 12.
Yes.
Is that
correct.
a typo? Or?
No, I changed things too fast. That's what happened. I'll put you at 12. Good. Okay, so any bugs coming in at dexterity 14. That's exactly what's happening.
And for any bug is so we have Devour, we have Killer Coil, we have the Domain, and the closest one to any bug right now would be Devour. Is
absolutely any bug standing right there.
Okay.
Oh, wait, you jumped away, but that's the closest, yes.
Okay. I think, you would see a thought bubble going out of any bug where any bug is thinking, it used to be my grandfather, but this can't be my grandfather anymore, and people are in danger, and I need to protect them. And any bug is going to then run to Devour with you see a proboscis coming out of any bug and is going to attempt now. I'm looking at my different possible attacks. One is severe strength, which is with the proboscis.
It's basically right.
That would be like a straight up assault attack.
Yes, absolutely correct.
And I also have
the assassin bug actually has a bonker, is what it is. It's right. It's not like a tongue. Right. It's more like a projection that actually bonks with.
I think that's what any bug is going to do. I mean, you'll see any bug, who's fairly swift, get kind of, this kind of device comes out of any bug's head, and it's going to be a kind of ram into Devour with this.
So no problem. You're going to do the jump back, which is going to be a certain amount of endurance. I'll tell you in a sec. And you're going to be making an attack roll right now on him. This is an attack using your strength. Severe means that damage will get through most defenses without being stopped. So in other words, you've got a really savage bonk on this. The what's called the knockout damage. Jim, you'll recognize that as no normal defense. All right, so what we have here is your 3d6 roll. And and we're comparing your dexterity to Devour's. And that's actually not too difficult for you. I'm just going to tell you straight up that it's a 14 or less for you to hit.
Okay. So I'm rolling 3d6?
Yeah, but 13 because you moved to attack, so that's -1. 13 or less.
Okay. I rolled a 13.
All right. Excellent. So how many dice does it say there?
For the severe strength attack?
Yeah.
It just says +20.
Oh, sorry. All right. So that's going to be 4 dice plus your own strength, which is going to be 6 dice. Okay. 4 of them will sort of roll 2 over here and 4 over there for reasons.
Okay. So with the 4, I got 17.
Mm-hmm. Leave him there. Keep going. Mm-hmm.
And with the 2, I got a 9.
Perfect. All right. So 26 stun. That's fun. And then the other thing I want to know is if you look at all those dice, find all the ones that are sixes, and that's a 2 each. Find all the ones that are 1s, and those are 0s each, and all the rest are 1s. So what would that add up to be?
So I have 2 6s, so that would be 4, and I don't have any 1s, so 4, 5, 6. So it'd be a total of 8.
Fantastic. Okay, that's called body damage, and we're looking at that too. So the first is called knockout damage, the second is called body damage, and you've basically, any bug leaps upon the struggling and standing, devour, and with his little doubtful thought balloon trailing after him, and manifests this massive, kind of bug head, semi-transparent, and shoulders perhaps, right, with big armor plates or something, and basically does this headbutt, a downward headbutt with a big old beak slamming down into him. And you make serious contact. You slam him hard. Roll 1 die.
1d6?
Yeah.
I got a 6.
A 6. Wow. You're going to knock him. I mean, just the angle that you got knocks him flying, like massive superhero flying away punch. And so he's knocked like significantly 30 feet, 10 meters away or more into the crowd, which is kind of terrible for Grimfire, who just went to all this work to clear this area of people, and you just knocked him out of it right into a bunch of people. But on the other hand, he hits hard, which is going to do some more damage. Now, Devour, at this point, has to make a certain check on something. Sure enough, when nobody listens, because he was trying to talk, nobody listens, Devour gets enraged. And he had grown to be a little bigger than a normal person by the time you hit him. And given the strength of that blow, he didn't travel as far as you might think from the blow. So Jim, just so you know, he did, a good 10 inches of knockback, but he only took 5. So he was already really heavy and really, really big. When he stands, when he hits the ground, he's maybe like 10 or 12 feet tall now. He grew. So yes, that's what happened. But just so you know, yes, there is some significant damage tracking for Devour right now. You did a lot of stun damage to him, or knockout damage. So far, so good. Grimfire, I feel like I'm leaving you out. Sorry about that. Let's go to your dexterity, which is next.
Okay. I think if anything were to explain Grimfire current line of thinking, it would be like 3 dots and then 3 question marks and like WTF,
yes.
Question marks. But in his mind, these 2 things are not a threat because they appear to be controlled by something. Yes, because we see that this thing in the air is controlling them. So it will be. So he thinks about what does he know about this domino and what is their tactics, because he's concerned that maybe knocking out this force controlling them will do better than fighting each of them separately. So it's going to be a couple of things. It's going to be like a find weakness in this whatever light, or this can be like identifying what are domain methods. So whichever you like.
Okay, well, the first thing is that find weakness is an action like an attack, and that's actually not that bad an idea. The way that works is that you can simply make a roll. It's 11 or less. What that also means is that after that, with one of your attacks, probably that punch with a strike, that its defenses are cut in half. It's much weaker. You have you're actually able to do more damage. It's not its defenses. You actually get extra dice of damage because you've spotted it structurally or otherwise how you can hit it maximally. What you can see. So if you make that rule, I'll tell you how that globe is particularly vulnerable.
But this globe is it's somehow in our plane of reality. Yes, it's material
correct.
over here. Cool.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, yeah, let's do that. He's aware of this assassin, someone like some newbie coming on.
That's right.
On him,
Whatever.
We'll deal with it later.
Uh-huh.
Like this thing is different, so I will look on this.
I see. And also, remember that you can talk anytime. So if you want to say the things you said, like that's the problem, so you tell the other heroes that, feel free. You don't have to take an action to do that. Just tell them if you want to. Batman does like to tell everybody what to do. We have noticed this in the comics. So, right.
Yeah, I don't suppose Grimfire has not switched. Which she is?
No, she's right. Correct. She's
So maybe he looks at the amazing buck man who kicked the Devourer so many meters, which is like pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Just like, hey kid, that's the problem. Not that we will deal with the Devourer later.
Right. Aha. Excellent. So tell me how you rolled.
3d6, yes?
Yes.
It's an 8.
The Grimfire is terrifying. If you can get up there, or if anybody can get to that, because it is hanging up there in the air, a fair distance up there. But if you can, if someone can get you up there, you know exactly where to punch at the place where the energy is emerging from it. That's where, for lack of a better word, that's where the reality begins. That's where you can breach this globe's connection to reality. You know exactly, if you can get up there and strike at it with all of your hellish power, you know that you can really nail it.
Okay.
So that's your action though. Is that analysis?
So I suppose as a speech is free and Hellfire knows that he doesn't fly or jump.
Right.
So he just shouts, Hey,
get me
up there. To you, boy. Yeah. Hey, boy, get me up there.
Right.
I need to punch this.
Excellent. Okay, so therefore, that puts us at 13, and we're still in 3. And so the witch can go now, either with ego or with dexterity.
The other thing.
Yeah, dexterity. The dex
early.
Yeah. No, for me, actually, remember, I'm 6 hours ahead of you.
No, it's not early for you.
No,
that's right. You're on.
But I am post massive children.
You're in the Eurozone. Mm-hmm. All right.
But I have done many children today.
Okay. So I'm gonna so I think is it a like if I want to like kind of like duck down and turn into the witch, what is that gonna, so that I'm not like just in a like I'm not throwing powers around in an EMT uniform in my civilian face, which is not what I want to be doing right now.
Well, you can always pop 5 points into instant change.
I'm going to do that then. Okay.
Mm-hmm. But that leaves you with 35 other points, and instant change is a
cool.
0-phase action.
Got it. Okay. So
do make your ego roll to switch up the powers, though.
Oh, sure. Yep. Okay, that's right.
The Jim has the hardest character because he has a pool of points he can shape into whatever powers he wants.
And I don't have the rule book in front of me, but I like I'm trusting you, Ron, to just to
I can translate real quick.
Guide me through.
Tell me what it is, and I'll give you the dice and everything.
I got 7 on the ego roll, which is
no
more
problem.
Than
so bam, the witch is here.
So yeah,
oddly enough, not the woman that the domain is grabbing. Right.
Exactly. Yeah. So I kind of like that kind of reality slicing thing that you were describing before. So like I just kind of take a hand and just sort of just do this, and as it passes, you can see my EMT uniform, but as my hand passes, right, it goes into like the and then I kind of like this around my face, and so I am in the kind of black tattered clothing of the witch, and I don't have a mask, but I've got that thing like in the Ring where like I've got dark hair that falls down over my face.
Okay. Oh, so the witch is like creepy lady.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I think so. Yeah. I kind of, and so I sort of like snap out a hand with my, black lacquered fingernails and stuff like this. And I kind of twist and I make a throwing motion, and I'm going to put some points into maybe telekinesis.
Right. No problem. Are you grabbing your sister away? Is that what's going on?
No, I'm not grabbing my sister away. I'm tossing Grimfire at that ball. I'm like, I need to get up there, and I'm like, okay, here we go.
He was talking, of course, to Anybug.
Yes, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So much to Grimfire's surprise.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah, I think that's
no
great.
problem.
Yeah.
Now, with you are technically going to have to roll to grab because he's not expecting this, but it's going to be against a DC fee of 0. So, therefore, you have a massively easy grab for your telekinesis. So, therefore, please give me a 3d6 roll, just so that you're able to.
I got a 9 on the attack roll.
That's not a problem. So the witch has telekinetically, even though it is her arm, but it is telekinetically seized, and you've got plenty left. You've got like 35 points left for strength in here. Seizes Grimfire and hoists him high up into the air. So Grimfire, you're like right there on this globe.
And it's all visible, so there's like that kind of like rippling, sort of roiling black smoke that is what my powers look like. Maybe a little like tint of green. Okay, and that's kind of the whole witch thing.
Got it.
And it's just sweeping him up into the air.
Perfect. You're gonna blow 7 points of endurance on this. Let's go back to Anybug. You blew about 12 points of endurance in your jump and hit.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Running out of endurance, no problem. Just go ahead and use knockout as endurance from that point on, and I'll roll to see how much you blow. Right. In other words, you can drive yourself into unconsciousness quite easy by overextending yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So when you get there. All right, so that gives us Grimfire on 3 has already gone, and the witch has gone, and the next person. This is kind of interesting because Killer Coil was going to attack Grimfire. Grimfire has just been whisked up and out of the way, and so Killer Coil is going to have a minus. Is going to have some penalties on the sudden removal of Grimfire. Now she does have the tentacles, so therefore it's she's got more reach, than most people. So she is still able to attack, but she's reversed direction. And in the tentacles don't flail and flop; they actually curve in very controlled curves compared to where she is at any given moment. So think of Dr. Octopus as a real martial artist with just 2 of these things coming out of her elbows, and you've kind of got the right idea. They end in rather nasty, sharp ending points.
What's that X-Men character I'm thinking? Is that Omega Red that I'm thinking of that has something like that?
Well, first of all, I don't know because everything in the X-Men after 1989 can go burn. But second, if so, that's too bad because I like Killer Coil.
No, that's totally fine.
All right, so and the roll is not that bad a roll, but misses. So Grimfire just nearly got hit by one of those spike-ended tentacles, but it was actually the witch that saved you by whisking you up there. So okay, there's the deal. So we move into phase 4, and for phase 4, the fastest person to go in it, first of all, is the Domain, who's going to do something kind of bad. Ooh. Yeah. What's Isabella's sister's name?
Oh, it's Estefania, but she's anglicized it to Stephanie. So
got it. Okay. So right. So Stephanie, sadly, is at this point the domain is it's almost as though its two halves are kind of splitting apart, and and Stephanie's being like pulled into the center of the domain, as a being. They're standing about 6 feet off the ground at this point, with that light behind them and everything. So one might get the idea that whatever's happening over there to Stephanie ain't that great. And so I wish I could give Stephanie a little more agency in all this, so she's not just like a puppet being shoved around to be in danger, but I'm busy. If I were a little more savvy, I would be doing that right now. But that's okay. That was the Domains Act on 4. The only other character to go on 4 right now was 2. One is Anybug. What does Anybug do?
I think, Anybug, you'll see another thought bubble going up, and we'll say he looks enraged. I need to make that a blinded rage. And Anybug is going to activate, there's a flash or a stink bug power to kind of try to blind something. And Anybug, with seeing all of these people in close proximity to this,
right? Devour can't bite him if he can't see him. We better, right. And I see a lot of these powers as coming kind of out of this proboscis. I imagine like the stink bug is something that kind of gets projected out of the kind of the proboscis that you just saw, causing all of that the way
damage.
I agree with you about that, but I also want to give you a little of my visuals. Every time you switch to a different part of that multi-power, a completely different manifestation of the proper species appears, like I described before. And so, therefore, you're sort of a taxonomist's wet dream, right? You're the true bugs, to a very technical entomologist, belong to the suborder Heteroptera. And so the only things you have in your multi-power are Heteropteran bugs. So,
okay.
So the thing I'm saying though is that you can switch. The point is there's enough of a switch so that we can see it's a slightly different species of unpleasant bug. And so go ahead. Oh, and by the way, make your roll 11 or less for your unusual looks, which has a number by it in your disadvantages.
Right. So the 3 die 6 again, correct?
Right.
I rolled a 11.
Right, which I believe hits your unusual looks. Keep that in mind. Your bugness is really starting to creep everybody out. It looks to them like there are 2 monsters here. That's what that's what the people in the immediate proximity are experiencing, and they're not going to respond to presence attacks from you anymore. They're like, whoa, forget that. So just letting you know that the sort of the screams that are starting to appear don't seem to be specific to just Devour. So go ahead and make your attack with that's another 3 die 6 to roll.
Okay. I got an 8.
Oh, man, you guys are rolling really well. What's really frustrating me is that in Champions, when you give off a power, like a dramatic power, and it doesn't hit, you still spend the endurance, and it still goes somewhere. So, stinking out half the crowd behind him, I was actually kind of looking forward to that. But, keep that in mind the next time you throw an energy blast somewhere or hit something. If you miss, you're going to hit something, if at all possible, for the GM. So, but the point is, for this, then, how many dice of flash does it say you have?
46.
Right, roll the 46, and only count the body. right? That easy that way to count with the 6s and the 1s and the 2s, or the 1, 2, or 0 per die. Count it that way. Roll the 46 and count it that way.
Okay, so in other words,
don't add them all
I'm
up.
Gonna roll these.
Mm-hmm.
Do what?
Sorry, roll them
all up first.
Don't roll up the numbers you roll. Just roll the dice.
Okay.
And then do that thing where it's 2, 0, or 1 per die.
Okay, so I got 1, 1, so that's a 0, and then 4, 3, and 3, so that would be 3.
Right. So that's how many of these next segments that Devour is blinded for. Okay. So this huge, like massively smelly jet of superpowered stink bug exudate, right, is ejected from your face and, steams off of Devour in this cloud. And everybody around there isn't affected by the flash. It's a single target thing, but they smell it. So that whole area is stunk out, and so Devour, of course, does this whole rah thing and starts clawing around. And it is Devour's next move, so it's a good thing you did it right then, because what Devour's going to do, having no recourse as to what to attack, and he's enraged, he must attack, is actually going to just take both clawed fists and slam them on the ground for, oh my god, rolls tons of 6s. So that's 2 body apiece. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, first of all, make your acrobatics roll immediately. Let's see, tell me if you make it.
So acrobatics, let's see on my sheet. Is that a...
It's under skill? Do you not have acrobatics? You might not have it. I don't think you do. Right, so you don't have acrobatics. You're a good jumper, but you're not very... I get the idea that you kind of wave your arms a little bit when you jump. And so you are going to be knocked, the ground bucks, the pavement is shattered in this radiating, pattern. The whole ground does the seismic thing. The crowd everybody's toppled, 10 pins everywhere, you included. You're sprawled out and rolling and disoriented in the moment anyway as to where you even are. So he didn't kill anybody, but he just basically broke half the plaza in this shattering display of strength. You suddenly realize that your grandpa, we're talking 12 feet tall here. And weight-wise, maybe cube what that weight ought to be. So you're talking about this incredibly massive, dangerous being who just shattered a significant amount of architecture. For that stink blast, spend 8 endurance. Okay. So and Devour is hitting that as well. Let's see. Okay. Good. Let's take the next person to go. That's the end of 4, except for, Devour went. So now we're on to 5, phase 5. And so in phase 5, we've got Grimfire and we've got the Witch. And so Grimfire is going to go first.
I just wanted to ask, how do we envision the Devourer? Is it something like this, the link, or somehow differently? Because I'm trying to imagine.
Oh wait, the Devourer or any bug?
The Devourer. I'm
right. Yeah, he's not he's not insect-like. He doesn't look like an insect.
Okay, so just like a normal man.
Well, I'm not sure if that's quite right. Think of it as a normal man who has bulked up into a grotesquely overdeveloped size and body shape, but who is sticky with dripping black fluids.
Something like a mix of Hulk and Venom, yes?
Exactly. Right, and especially because that lower face drops into an oversized jaw, so the mouth is really enormous, and it's ringed with teeth. Yeah, that's and the way he stands, bends over so the head is in front of the shoulders. You know, so it's kind of like if he sweeps with his arms and brings you to his mouth, that's really easy. He doesn't have to pick it up. He just has to sweep his arms and things come to his face.
Okay.
Yeah, that's kind of the image. So next, I believe we had Grimfire.
Yeah. I was thinking about the spider's hypocrisy. I was just thinking if I should shout that whatever the Dominion is, whatever Dominion is saying that it's a hypocrisy. But yeah, so maybe now that he has a position, he's somewhere up in the air, holding by this like ball of energy, and he like hangs to the material part of it and is about to punch it, and he just looks at where the main is, and he just shouts, "The things you are saying is a hypocrisy. Everyone should have the right to vote, not only you. Okay, for you next."
All right. Okay, so there's your presence attack, first of all. I'm going to say let's roll for the presence attack after your punch on the thing. Because if you manifest a power in a very appropriate way, you get all these bonus dice, and that's just fun. So go ahead and attack. The thing isn't that hard to hit, but you still need to roll. There's a chance you may miss. So roll 3d6.
Okay. I rolled exactly 13, so that's my dexterity.
Okay, no problem. Well, you're not rolling your dexterity; you're rolling to hit the thing, and so, but that's okay. So, what you need to tell me is what does it say under the aura, the strike aura that you've got?
It does say force field 9 plus aura 2d6 endurance drain. But then it says strike adds 2d6 presence drain. Okay,
so this is a punch that you're doing, and you have the martial arts. I'm not sure if you have martial arts. Hold on.
I have martial arts maneuvers.
That's right. So you're able actually to do a punch, which is going to give you some extra strength. Your strength is, I believe, 18 or 20. Is that correct?
My strength is 30.
30, right. So you're strong enough to actually pick up a car, and if you really exert yourself, you could even throw it. That's how strong Grimfire is. So you can deliver this massive punch that's going to do extra damage. So now it does a lot of damage, especially to people, because if you punch a person like that, not only do you do the damage, but their presence drops. You basically demoralize them by punching them.
Okay.
But this is a thing, so it doesn't have that. So that's okay.
I'm thinking that my fist is like engulfed with like a fire, and I'm just like punching this in this weak spot with my like fiery fist.
That's exactly right. And so we have it's actually going to be 6 dice for your strength plus 3 dice for the martial punch. So therefore 9 dice of damage.
Okay.
So you'll roll 9d6. Wow, I'm not really hitting you guys with anything right now. It's kind of irritating me.
I will reroll this one. It's 20, and then I'm going to add an extra die because I rolled only. So it's 26.
And let's see, can you, before erasing that, look at the dice of what's called the body, which is 2 for each 6, and a 0 for each 1, and then 1 for everything else.
Okay. 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Perfect. Okay. That's typically it's the number of dice, but it wiggles. So therefore, yes, 9 body on something is actually extremely, extremely powerful. This is the kind of punch that could actually like breach, easily breach a heavy brick wall. Is kind of the kind of punch we're talking about. And so it disrupts the place where the globe is attached, and it breaks. I'm gonna say one of the two connections. So therefore, I'm going to roll randomly because you couldn't tell unless I'm going to say you didn't have much choice to pick. You just hit the first one that manifested
I picked the weak
itself.
spot. I hit the weak spot.
Right, I know that, but the question is, was the weak spot for Killer Coil or the weak spot for Devour? Right, yeah, that's what I think too. So I just rolled it for one of them, and the control over Devour vanishes. The tendril vanishes. So now, well, yeah, the trouble is you still have an out of control Devour.
Yes.
You still have kind of a problem, but at least he's not under control anymore, or under the domain's control. So yeah, you do that, and now it's time for that presence attack on the domain. And so go ahead and roll.
So am I not doing too much actions in this turn?
No, because presence attacks are free.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Okay, so...
And what they
do I
do if
roll?
they're high enough is that they can actually make people lose actions. So you can actually make people hesitate and clear the field for you and your friends to have lots and lots of actions.
Okay.
That's what you're really aiming for. So
So-
it's 1d6 per 5 presence.
So that's 4 because I have 18
Right.
present.
You've manifested a power, you've done a violent action, and you've said the right monologue. The domain does not like to discuss hypocrisy. It's right there in the psychological disadvantages, right? As you might imagine. And so, therefore, you're really you're flipping a trigger on that one. So you're easily going to get 5 more dice. So you can roll 9 dice. Oh, -1 because you're in combat.
Yep.
The other thing that doesn't work very well, for example, well, we'll worry about some other things later.
It's tough to get somebody to chat when you're punching them.
That's true. I was also going to point out that if you're telling them to do something that they really, really don't want to do, you also get minuses. But you weren't telling the domain to do anything. You're just trying to rattle them. So you
Yes.
don't have that disadvantage. So it's not mind control. It's very much more a matter of kind of creating a shattering effect of your presence that has different ripple effects on different characters.
Yeah. Somehow it didn't calculate for me, but I believe I had 28.
Okay.
Well,
28. So
28.
just out of interest too, both let's see, Killer Coil, Devour, the Witch, and Anybug will all lose half an action. Because what that means is that when someone does a presence attack on somebody in your vicinity, if it's not directed at you, you take 1 level less of effect. So it's kind of funny. I mean, the point is that even though he wasn't presence attacking you, when Thor goes to town, even the other heroes flinch a little bit. So Grimfire actually just kind of really showed where he's coming from. It's like, washed up, retired hero? I don't think so. So all of you guys are all going to kind of do a little, holy shit kind of response to that. So anyway, yes, you have the domain. Interestingly enough, you just kicked off the domain's potential enrage, which is actually very good. 8, rolled an 8, so the domain is enraged, which means they're only concentrating on attacking, and therefore drops its attention to Stephanie. Yeah. So that was your action. Now, you just burned a ton of endurance to do this, too, what with the strike and the punch. Right. So 9 endurance is gone. And so cool. All right. Well, that's all very, very interesting. Let's just hope the witch doesn't drop you. And what we have, that was on Grimfire on 5, and then the witch is on 5.
So, I'm gonna like I've got Grimfire held up in the air. So but we still need to deal with
Well, everybody.
Devour.
Mhm.
Yeah, with everybody. So I'm holding him up, and I yell at him. Can you hold this thing long? Can you hold that monster off long enough for people to get away?
Are you shouting to me or to anybody?
You.
I'm holding to this ball. I'm not. Can I like, hold myself to this like?
Not really. No. The only way you're going to be up
Okay.
there is if she keeps you up there.
No, you need to hold me.
Okay, so then I'll oh, you know what? I'm gonna presence attack my sister to tell her to get away,
Mm-hmm.
to lose herself in the crowd if she possibly can.
Is she your DNPC?
She
is.
Yes.
Unfortunately, in the rules of Champions Now, Hunteds and DNPCs, your presence won't work on them.
Yeah. That's totally legit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So
you can't tell your arch nemesis is done with your bullshit.
yes, yeah, sure.
So-
Yeah, and your and your DNPCs are
there's a special intimate relationship with them where all that's over. Yeah.
Well, they're plot protected from your
manipulations,
telling them to get out of danger.
That's right, which is precisely So you can
Exactly.
shout all you want to, but what are you going to do?
Okay, so
You
like
have
I
freedom
holler
of action, though, right?
I holler at her. I do that thing where I say, "Steffet, Miss Garcia."
right.
You know, get out of here now while you can. And I turn back to Grimfire and I say, all right, make it count. And I'm just gonna. I mean, I have to maintain the telekinesis to hold them up there, right?
Right, but you have freedom of movement yourself. You can run over to Stephanie if you want. I mean, telekinesis doesn't hold you in place.
Oh, sure. I guess that's true. So, actually, you know what? I see Stephanie get away. I'm holding him up, and I kind of I'm not stealth, so I can't teleport. And I'm using, but I'll kind of step up onto the table, and kind of point at the domain and say, "Hey, I don't know where you're getting your information from, but you need better Oppo research."
Yeah, that's right. Okay. Yeah, over here. Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. Like you got it all wrong.
Mm-hmm.
The witch is right here, and clearly, you messed that up.
Perfect. Because right now is when the globe lances out and hits you between the eyes.
There we go. All right.
So that is the domain's enraged attack.
Okay.
And so you are subjected to the following effect. Now, do you have any of the mental disciplines or anything like that? I can't remember. I don't think you do.
I don't think so. No, I've got plus 10 presence when I'm using my power pool.
Right.
But if this is like an ego attack or something, I don't have any ego defense as far as I can see.
Right. Well, it's not a great roll, unlike that. It's not full of sixes, that's for sure. So that's good for you. So 10, 10, and 30. Okay, what's your character's ego?
12.
12. Okay. So 2 times ego. The only thing that the domain says, give yourself up and your sister lives. Come to me. So the question is that something that your character would at least consider?
So I guess my sister's not in immediate danger right now. Like if somebody had her with a knife to her throat, then I think I'd be more considerate of that. It's kind of so if I thought she were in absolutely in real danger, then yes, I would. So I'm not sure where that leaves us.
Okay. As far as I can tell, she kind of is in danger because of all the like supervillains controlled running around and stuff like that. So you're going to at least find yourself stepping toward the witch. And so, however, it's not like you're this puppet who can't think and can't do things. And so, you are going to
even if only it's even if only this is the okay, well, if I can make them think that for long enough for Stephanie to get away, then yeah, totally.
Right.
Yeah, sure.
Well, and the trouble is when it comes to mind control is that you can talk yourself into it just like that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
So, cool. So, yes, all of a sudden the witch has been mind controlled, and that's no fun at all. So, go ahead and that's a question. Make an ego roll. Isabella, make an ego roll to see if there's something that you can remember to keep going.
I got a 14. That's not great.
Oh, sorry, Grimfire.
Yeah, I'm going to drop him.
Yeah, she drops you. The mind control is too distracting. She forgot about you entirely.
Yeah.
So, yeah, bud. Right. Which is actually, I think, you have your force field up, so I think that's going to bounce right off. Yeah, and I roll really crappy. You actually hit the ground and are not hurt at all.
I do like a superhero landing, this 3-point landing.
Oh, excellent. Okay. Perfect. So, so bam. And so, and I just like the fact that like a perfect ring of flame just goes whoosh out from you for just a second when you land. So, perfect. So that's the end of that particular sequence. I keep forgetting about Killer Coil. That's no fun at all. Yeah. All right. Excellent. Killer Coil actually damaged in swinging at Grimfire. Oh, let's see. Grimfire's there, and she would have been going after.
Grimfire's on the ground now.
Yeah. Well, now he is, but
yeah.
Yeah, he's been doing a lot of unpredictable moving up and down. So that's been really hard for her, and I've been rolling really crappy for Killer Coil, which is really annoying. But the trouble is that efforts and attacks do things. Every move she makes is actually doing terrible damage to people. She's actually hurting people by the secondary effects of she like lashes out with a tentacle and it misses Grimfire, but man, it just takes somebody completely off their feet, and they're very badly hurt. So people are you're starting to see casualties. And it's due primarily to her at the moment. It doesn't help that Devour just rocks the whole landscape and all these people are lying around and are there to be basically stepped on and slashed and whatever. She's completely uninterested in the well-being of the people around her. So wherever she goes, there are screams and blood and people, in danger.
So since we're starting a new phase, we've been going for 2 hours pretty much straight. Can we do a little TO to take a quick break and maybe grab something to drink and bio break?
You guys want a break for a sec? Okay.
That would be fun.
Yeah. All right. See you in 5, I guess. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks, Ryan.